Hi, and welcome to the Maiden Fair podcast. Each week we recap the latest episodes of Game of Thrones with less than accurate discussions. We try to fill in the gaps, predict the future, and discuss the merits of attractive people. No promises on no spoilers, but promises we didn't know they were spoilers. I'm the Bear, Liz Loxley.
And I'm the Maiden Fair, Mia Moore.
What did we mess up last week?
We don't have anything written down, but I'm hesitant to say that it was a perfect no-miss week.
We just think no one listened to it.
Or they didn't correct us. Either way.
Yeah. We don't mean to diss you if you did listen to it. You're a lovely human being who is an angel from the heavens of Westeros. I don't know.
The heavens of the known world, Liz. God.
Well, I am only featuring the 7. Okay, I'm done. I'm already retired from this episode. This very,
Goodbye.
very intense episode.
Yeah. So we will be talking about the controversy, but we're saving that for the end, which is when it happened.
And I will also mark off the time period in which the discussion happened, so you can either only listen to it or skip past it. We know that kind of discussion can be triggering for a lot of people, so I'm going to try and respect that. And we kind of changed up our format to be able to discuss it at length at the end.
And also, sometimes it's just annoying to hear discussion of things that have already been taught to death. So whatever your reason for skipping it, we respect it.
Yeah, but mind you, I think I have a pretty controversial viewpoint on it. So it might be fun.
Anyway, I look forward to that.
So we start off the episode in Bravos, and it starts off with Arya washing a dead body.
Her new favorite activity.
We knew it would end up here, right?
Not the washing part.
The ultimate, thing of Arya's story plot, washing dead bodies. But we pretty much had the same thought about this. It was like, oh, it's nice that Maisley can finally be a pretty girl.
Yeah, she hasn't had a costume change in, literally 3 or 4 seasons now. She's literally been wearing the exact same jerkin and pants combo. And while that's been beautiful and highly recognizable for cosplayers, it's nice to have a different thing.
And she also gets to be bathed. I bet that's nice for her.
Yeah, well, I bet she doesn't care as much as she might have once. I'm sure she's used to it by now.
She's like, paint the dirt on me.
Yeah, pretty much. She's always been kind of like a play in the mud kind of gal.
So that body is taken back behind the door that has been left ajar. And so Sansa, Arya starts walking towards the door to open it. Which, okay, really? That's the only thing that takes you to try and open that door? You're a highborn and you know how to open doors. Walk is not that hard. And that's all it takes for you to want to open the door. But then the waif is like, no, and slams the door shut. She doesn't say no. That's my own animation of this scene. Arya wants to play the game of faces. The waif is like, no. And then she gets mad at the waif. And then the waif tells a story about being a highborn, but is potentially lying.
Well, okay, so you didn't write a lot of notes about that part, but I think this is the most interesting part is this is, we didn't really understand the Game of Faces before. They didn't really tell us what it was, but she tells this really interesting story about being highborn, her dad remarrying, her finding out that her new mom was going to poison her, and so instead she went to the Faceless Men and had her mom killed. And then she's like, did you believe me? Did you think that was all true? I didn't even question it for a second because that's not the mentality we have. I'm sure Arya was also not questioning it for a second. And now I felt like that was a really good introduction to what the Faceless Men are, how they learn how to change faces or whatever. And I know we were annoyed with kind of the way that the Faceless Men talk and the way that they've been just hinting around about stuff, but I thought this was a really interesting way to do it.
I also, generally speaking, don't like any kind of order that has to lie. I hate spies in general. So it's something that is not a plot that necessarily interests me. Well,
then that's all assassins, though.
Yeah, I don't like assassins at all.
Yeah, but you wanted Arya to be a murderer, so you win some, you lose some. Careful what you wish for.
Assassin is different than murderer. Murderer has heart. Assassin is done through money.
Yeah.
I could hate it if Arya ends up with that story plot where she's just murdering for money rather than revenge. Because that's not the story plot I would want her to have.
Yeah, but I think her revenge is probably what's holding her back from becoming a true assassin versus just a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only like murderers. Because I'm a bad person.
Get it right. Well, don't you like Bronn?
That's different, though, because he's self-done. It's not an order telling him that way.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
that's just his job.
But he does murder for money. There's a blurry line there.
Yeah, but he's a soldier. Still different than an assassin.
He's not a soldier. He's a sellsword.
Yeah, soldier you buy.
Okay. I guess.
I mean, I know that there are a lot of differences, but in how my brain categorizes whether or not I like the type of murder.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I never really thought to separate murderers into types, so, you know, you learn something new every day.
And then Arya is sleeping, and she's woken by Jaqen, and Jaqen asks, "Who are you?" And she answers, "Arya," for the first time.
She tests her own ability to tell lies.
As well as his ability to detect them, I think. I think she's testing how much they can and cannot tell.
Yeah, and I honestly thought that her lies were really convincing. Other than being like, what was the one? Oh, here's the thing. When she first started this part, I was like, what? That didn't happen. And then he was like, "You liar." And I was like, oh, I see. Like, I did not catch on very quickly.
But, like, I think they, because a lot of the details she lied on were unnecessary details, like, by a man named, it wasn't Podrick, but my brain always goes to him.
Oh, nope.
Right?
I don't remember.
The cute little baker boy.
Yeah, Hot Pie?
Yeah, sure. I was kidnapped by a man named Hot Pie.
No, that's a different guy. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, but she's like, and she also lied about how her dad died and stuff like that. I thought it was really interesting the details that she picked to lie about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they do, like I was saying, they seem like the extraneous details, like how your dad died isn't as important as your dad died, or who kidnapped you isn't as important to your story as you were kidnapped. Yeah,
and she also lies about how she kills the dude that she kills. Yeah. She said she stabbed him through the back.
Again, same thing.
She literally stabbed him through the belly, right? So it's just the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But then she talks about how it was a hound, and that she hated the hound, and that she left him to die because she wanted him to die, and it was a lie. I'm like, haha, that means you love the hound. Because I couldn't think that she could just tolerate the hound.
Yeah, that was pretty cute. Like, even though she wanted to kill him, like, he's like, "Oh, you're lying." And she was very insistent that part was not a lie. And I'm like, "Oh, you just don't know your true feelings. Y'all were bros. I would totally watch a sitcom with just you two."
I know. And because I am crazy, I think the mention of the hound means he's still alive.
I disagree entirely, but okay.
That's just because I'm Team Hound, and I just want him back.
Well, my favorite part is that they mentioned several people that are dead in that one scene, and you were just like, "Oh, good, the hound was mentioned." Like, I know that he's, like, more or less, it's a little more ambiguous with him, but still.
I mean...
There are theories that Ned is still alive.
I mean, death is not real in this world. So, that's just a fact. Characters we don't like will come back to life, I'm sure.
So the scene ends with Arya being like, "I'm not playing this stupid game anymore," and Jaqen is like, "We never stop playing." And all I can think is, like, she's totally not ready to go to the next level with this. Like, she doesn't understand what they're getting at all.
It's just, like, it's so V for Vendetta, Alan Moore-ish, like, just teenagers being deep and dark, and it's just, like, this very specific type of writing I hate, which makes me mad that I'm really not enjoying Arya's time right now at all, even a little bit.
Oh, I liked it a little, but I do think I don't like how much they've spread it out, and I think they could have accomplished this a lot faster, and I think because they've spread it out, that's what is adding to your feeling too, because I understand where you're coming from.
And they also, like, bury it in an episode where they know they have much, much, much more important scenes. They keep putting them at the front of episodes. And so you forget about it by the time
we have to put this somewhere, and, like...
It's just, it's frustrating because she is my favorite character, and it's sad that she's taking a turn of storylines that's just everything I don't like in stories.
Yeah. But then, even though I personally feel Arya's not ready, she lies.
What?
But, like, in a very believable way. So... do you want to tell what happens in the scene?
Sure. So Arya's scrubbing the floors like she does all the time.
It's her favorite thing.
When a man brings in his dying child, the father of the dying child tells Arya that he's tried everything, he's spent all of his money, and that he can't watch his child suffer anymore. Which is really weird, because the idea of a parent wanting their child to die because they don't want them to suffer anymore keeps coming up in my life, which is a real trippy thing to keep coming up in my life. So it came up in Game of Thrones, and I'm like, what is about to happen to me? I'm not suffering. Parents, please don't kill me.
Oh my god, it's the Twilight Zone.
And so Arya then talks to the girl to have her drink out of the fountain, and obviously there's more to that, but that's the basis. Yeah,
so when she first starts out, she starts telling a story to the girl, and she's talking about how she was the same way. She was also sick and dying, and her dad loved her and didn't want her to die and all this stuff. And all I could think in my head was like, when did this happen? Was this before the series started? And then like it goes on, and you realize that she's lying to the girl. Like, you said that you thought it was like to comfort her.
So I thought it could be kind of one of two ways, is that she's trying to figure out how the faceless assassins work, and she's going to try anything to get back there. So if lying's the way to get back there, then she's going to lie. She's just trying to kind of like put pieces together. Or that she's lying to her to comfort her into drinking the water, so that she feels along with Arya.
I'm leaning more toward the second. I thought it was more like, oh, good, someone approached me. Good, I can practice my lying technique. Like, it just seemed like almost exploitative. Like, oh, good, you're here and you want to die anyway, or you want me to kill her anyway, or whatever. And I know that this water is somehow poison or something. So, I don't know. I didn't think it was as like innocent as like, oh, you poor girl, let me help you feel better.
Well, I don't think it was innocent. I don't think that she was being innocent, but I think that the lies she were telling were very specifically to comfort the girl.
That's true.
Like,
and she could have chosen to not talk about that at all.
Yeah. But then there's the weird part where she's like, my dad loved me and wouldn't have tried to kill me.
Don't worry, I'll cure you with this poison water or whatever.
And so Jaqen is watching on, and then
of course he is,
because he's a creep.
He's always in the shadows.
And then it shows Arya cleaning the girl's body. And then Jaqen lets Arya behind the mysterious door. Woo!
What's it gonna be?
As it turns out, it's a forest of dead people's faces.
It's okay. It's not like a forest. Well, it's okay.
It's a little like a forest.
It's a very big hall. Like, what's weird is the only places that Arya have been like relatively like small to medium sized rooms. So for there to be like this giant hall, you're just like, how big is this place? And it's lined with candles all around the edges, and it's huge. And my first thought was like, man, who has to wake up in the morning and light all these candles? That sucks. Like, that's the equivalent of Arya's. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like your first job is wiping the same floors down over and over again, even though nobody comes in here, and your second job is lighting all the candles in the room that we only go on once a month.
Congrats.
Yeah, you really made it.
And then I liked the room, but if you've been on the internet a long time, back in the 90s, and then it resurfaced a year or so ago, there was like one of the first memes was a picture of a lotus nipple, which was a nipple with a lotus flower attached to it. Anyways, that gave me nightmares as a child in the room. The way like the inset of the walls reminded me of that a lot. And I was like, ugh.
You have a weird thing with like holes, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, humanity has a weird thing with holes, but you in particular.
Yeah, it was just like one of those things I was like, oh, I would love this so much more if it didn't have this weird mental thing. And also I laughed that they were literally faceless folk.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, and so this is weird. So it ends by Jaqen is like, are you ready to become no one? No, but you're ready to become someone else. And I'm like, does this mean that every person that you become, like when you're faceless, the other people you become are actually just, you're stealing other people's identities essentially, like from dead people? Or is that just how you practice until you get good enough that you have your own identity and you can tell your own lies? Like, were the lies that the waif was telling earlier, were those lies from someone else's life?
So it's just like a library of future careers, essentially?
Essentially, yeah. So, like, whenever, I don't know, in the next, like, maybe Arya wants to murder someone else, maybe she takes on a different noble's persona.
Imagine going through that one today, sir.
That's what it seems like. It seems like a menu of options. And honestly, if that's what it is, I'm a little disappointed.
But it's so funny.
That's just me, though. And that could totally not be what it is, but that's what I was getting from that scene.
Also, I was so terrified the face was going to move. I knew it wasn't in my heart, but there's just such a part of me that's so expecting jump scares. I was like, no, please don't.
No, jump scares are the worst. I literally, like, anytime there is one in Game of Thrones with dragons or whatever, like, I know it's coming. I still react terribly.
And spill wine all over your kitty cats.
That was one time.
And you'll never live past it, or whatever that saying is.
Live it down.
There we go. All right.
Together we make one person.
Sort of, even barely then.
Like a really low-functioning sad person.
I was like, we're still missing major parts.
Yeah, but I think my empathy combined with your, like, I don't know, actual rational brain might logic out.
So now we're outside of Volantis with Tyrion and Jorah. Which I think is a scene I care more about than you because I'm in love with Jorah Mormont.
But I have a confession.
What?
I'm starting to like Jorah.
I've infected you, just like Jorah's infected.
Oh. Oh, man. No, like, it's terrible. He's about to die pretty much. Like, his fate is pretty much sealed, and now I'm like, oh, I'm somehow interested in you. It's the worst. Anyway, you can start, though.
I actually really liked the exposition where Jorah finally basically is like, so what are you doing here? And Tyrion's like, it's never occurred to you to ask why I'm here until now?
My favorite part is, like, once Tyrion is like, this is why I'm here, I killed my dad or whatever, they start talking about why Jorah's here and, like, why he's so, like, in love with this idea of serving Dany and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, good. Someone on the face of the planet wasn't aware that Jorah is in love with Dany. Like, it seems to be kind of a widely known thing. But at least Tyrion didn't know.
Hold up. I'm a little caught off my rocker.
You are now joining Fair and Maiden Fair podcast on the Lilo Mimo Podcast Network. Thanks for bearing with us through the technical delays.
That's so cute. I want to keep it in. My power went out, and then I had to light some candles, and yeah, now we're back. So,
here with thunderstorm, or at least Liz's. I'm just a little sad.
Yeah, severe thunderstorms and tornadoes are everywhere, but I'm gonna truck on through it. Tornadoes,
you can do it, Lizonator.
I was gonna say tornadoes cannot kill a dragon, but that doesn't quite work.
Yeah, I think they would kill a dragon, or else just transport them immediately off. Yeah.
That's a cute image, and okay. So anyways, so now
back to the show.
Jorah learns about his Pop-Pop's death.
Pop-Pop.
And his little eyes when they're, like, all sad and, like, tearful in.
This is when I started liking Jorah, when he looked like a puppy dog.
I know, it's so cute. And we shall never see his like again. And Jorah's like, Pop-Pop, Papa.
You're like, Jorah's like, oh, that's weird. They only say that whenever people die. Wait. What? And then he demands to know how it happened, which is the worst thing because it was a mutiny, and he was like a really good Lord Commander.
Well, what made me laugh is when you were watching this episode the first time, you tweeted me, or texted me, and you're like, Jorah immediately asks how, because no one dies naturally of old age in Westeros.
I forgot I said that. But he was even old, and he asked how. Oh, that's funny. I'm pretty funny. Good job, past self.
I was like, how did you forget your own good joke?
Yeah, you were like, write your note here. And I was like, I don't remember.
All right, so then we have decided that we're keeping all scenes kind of together this episode. So we're back to Tyrion and Jorah when they're walking through a field. And
that
they
was introduction. You could have just been like, and now they're walking. Like,
I don't know. Like, it would weird me. I don't know it wouldn't. I'm lying. Okay. So they're walking through a field and have their "Are you an atheist?" discussion. It felt like Reddit for a second. And Tyrion's like, no, everything is worthless. And Jorah's like, but dragons, they exist, Tyrion. That means God, because dragons.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Although I really am enjoying these scenes with Tyrion and Jorah playing off each other because they're very similar in so many ways, but they're also total opposites in ways like this.
Yeah, it's also weird seeing a character that's traditionally been used only for exposition and heightening other people's characters, like Dany, to be made a very active member.
Maybe that's why I like him so much now.
that can make sense because he's no longer being like, this happened in Westeros once.
Let me tell you about the Blood Rise.
Yeah, exactly.
Voice was that pretty good?
It's the best we can do.
Yeah, that's my man voice. And then they have a discussion about, do you think Dany's going to be a queen? Like, why are you backing Dany? And I love that even the characters are having this debate at this point because, like, nobody believes, like, as of right now, pretty much everyone's like, oh, she's not ready yet. But, you know, I still back her.
Well, I also like that they're having it at this point once they're so far into this journey. Like, years for Jorah.
Yeah, he's been, yeah. But it's interesting, too, because then we get to see more of his perspective on it when he's kind of isolated from Dany and not worried about, like, her opinion on what he thinks about her, you know?
And then both of us have a terrible bias during this scene because I described this scene as a sexy-ass slave ship ambush.
And my note is, why are these people the sexiest?
So then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Jorah, oh, Tyrion, oh.
Everyone's real sexy in this scene. So
like some new beef, yes.
Yeah, I think it's partly just because us Game of Thrones fans are thirsty for some new dude characters that aren't crazy yet.
Or, like, disgusting, and I love disgusting dudes.
Yeah, but they're, like, genuinely, like, normal people would find them attractive dudes.
Yeah, that was good.
They don't have names yet, do they, right? They're just slavers?
I think so. I'm pretty sure they are characters, like, legit, but...
Yeah, we'll probably get their names in an episode or two.
Yeah.
They were not only was this a really funny scene, like normally you think an ambush would be stressful, but it wasn't. It was very funny, but it was real. There was a lot of sexual tension, or maybe that's just me.
It was just you.
It was real sexy. Jorah all of a sudden looks.
Well, I guess they did talk about his cock a lot.
Yeah, and then like the dudes are shirtless, and then Jorah's like. Well, you know how, like, wrestling and sex are really close because it's just a bunch of dudes grabbing each other and, like panting and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Especially UFC.
It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's nice that you're being the pervert instead of me.
It never happens, but it was just a very, like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, no. And also, Tyrion is not doing a good job of making me not want to sleep with him with his warp-sized cock line.
I know. But Tyrion is weirdly, like, really sexy.
Which is weird because, like, normally I'd be really turned off by a character that goes to brothels that much.
Yeah, and just, like, a drunken, like, give up on life character. But for some reason, it works for him. Yeah,
and I'm just like, tell me more about your penis.
But it is sad when, like, the best part of an episode is looking for a cock merchant.
Well, I just love the term cock merchant. Like, that was amazing. I can't believe they even, like, why did they say that? It's so funny.
It's golden.
Also, I love this proof that Tyrion can talk his way out of any situation. Because they were literally about to slit his throat, like, and then he's like, wait, let's discuss this.
Let's sell my cock for luck, guys. Sure, whatever.
Sure, but keep me alive a little longer so I can prove that I'm actually worth things.
And then they're like, okay, well, we're going to kill Jorah. And Tyrion's like, no, wait.
He's a great fighter.
He can fight in the pits. Which I was like, fuck yeah, because then he dies on his own accord, because he's gonna die in the pits.
Yeah, it's gonna give him a better character arc. Like, because they gave him the grayscale to be like, hey, you've got something to fight for. Like, now you have a time crunch on your serving Dany needs. Like, yeah, let's give you some more, like, fire under your butt kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now he's going to die with honor, and no one's going to know he had grayscale until they perform a Westeros autopsy.
Yeah, that's one thing I was like, oh, I hope he dies in the pits, because then he doesn't die of grayscale. Sad Game of Thrones hopes.
I know. When you're like, oh, I hope my character, like, I don't know, dies this way instead of this other awful, equally horrible, but in a different way.
He's literally committing 2 different kinds of death right now.
Oh, yay.
Woohoo.
So, yeah, that was good, though. I'm really enjoying these Tyrion and Jorah scenes.
All right, so now we're in Dorne, and it starts off with Trystane and Marcella. They gonna get married.
Attractive people.
Trystane has those, like, lips, the way he talks.
I had to look up how old this actor was to make sure that I wasn't being creepy.
I mean...
I wasn't. He's 23.
As long as he's of age, it's fine.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So, I mean, in the books, Trystane is, like, 15. So I was like, oh, no. I can't be attracted to him. But don't worry, he's 23. It's all legal. It's all good. He's really cute. Marcella is super cute. And Tristan is a super hottie, and I love the cute relationship. What?
It's so funny because I'm just normally being like, and this was really sexy, but this is you. Like, they're hot, the hottie. I'm just appreciating the difference. I feel sorry for any men who listen to this podcast today.
What men that listen to this podcast? Just kidding. We know there's maybe a few of you out there.
Thank you for listening.
We appreciate you.
We're sorry for attacking you with our libido.
Also, I wanted to mention that Marcella's like, we can't kiss, someone will see. And then the next time they're kissing, they get attacked. Like, for once, being afraid of kissing, totally valid.
Totes. And then it flips to Doran real quick, being like, Aryo Hota, protect them, please.
How do you say his name?
I think it's Aryo Hota. That's how it looks. That's how I'd read it if I was reading it.
That's not a lot when it comes to Game of Thrones.
It is not.
But yeah, that's some grade A foreshadowing right there.
I know, right? And the worst part is, like, for some reason I didn't think that would immediately come to, like, play.
I only knew because in the episode description it's like the sand snakes attack, and it's called Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken.
Well, I knew that happened. I just didn't know, like, the Aryo part would come in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But it's literally, like, in the next scene, which is, like, Game of Thrones, you have some very short timelines this season.
Then it shows Bronn and Jaime talking, trying to finally get to Dorne. And I did love whenever Bronn is trying to be like, so what's your actual legitimate plan for escaping once we have her? And Jaime's like, I like to improvise. That explains the golden hand. It's just like, Bronn is like, why am I here? Why are you making my death wish, Jaime?
Yeah, every now and then, Bronn's like, I'm in Dorne. How did that happen?
What are you doing to me? Is it your blue eyes?
Is it your attractive face?
Is it your jawline that brought me here? All right. So then it's the Sand Snakes going out for Oberyn on Illyria's command.
She's wearing black. I don't know. Their outfits feel significant, but I can't tell you why they're significant. Like, I feel like hers is a morning dress. They're
also more covered than they normally are.
Well, I think that's because they're committing treason.
Yeah, and they're about to go fight, potentially.
Yeah. They also say Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, which is where the episode title comes in, and those are House Martell words, but that's weird because they're bastards.
It's not weird. You're just mad you thought they were Martells and they're not. Because they're fighting for Oberyn, so it makes sense that they're trying to live up to the house rules that they think they're living up to, but Doran thinks he's living up to. So it's just the two balances of using the same Martell words.
When you say that, I guess it makes sense, but I guess because I'm on the Prince Doran side of things, I'm not impressed with these Sand Snakes. I'm so disappointed. Like, these were the characters I was most hyped for.
Yeah, I know people kept being like, you're going to love him, you're going to love him, you're going to love him, but they haven't been given any sort of personality or, like, self-actualization because Illaria's leading them all, and Illaria's not fun at all.
Yeah, she used to be great. Like, this season, though, she's been really, like, I don't want to say a downer, because that's kind of sexist, but, I mean, she's just been lame.
Well, I understand that what she's doing and the character arc that they're doing or whatever, but nonetheless, it doesn't... I feel like it's the acting almost. I feel like if she was slightly more passionate in her acting, I'd like her.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
But she's
too.
very
like,
reserved
in the scenes.
She's doing the very in a minute, and we're gonna do this and that, rather than be like, we're gonna do this because Oberyn, which I'd appreciate a lot more.
Yeah, I'm curious because I'm planning on going back to read the books, after the season's done and kind of like maybe catch up, but I don't want to be spoiled. I like watching stuff on the show first, so that's my only hold up. But I'm curious if in the books, like, it seems like this is a lot more passionate in the books and it probably is more explained. Like, this whole murder plot thing has happened very quickly.
Yeah, I think they're really relying on how much we cared about Oberyn.
And that's the weird thing is I care so much about Oberyn, I cannot give a shit about this plot right now.
Yeah, I care more because of Jaime, and I like Doran.
Yeah, but we don't even really get to see Doran, and, like, Jaime, I agree, is the more interesting part, and that wasn't even in the book. So it sucks that they're taking a book thing and, like, kind of making it not interesting, especially one that was hyped so hard.
Yeah. So then Jaime comes up and takes Myrcella.
He attempts to take Myrcella. It doesn't really happen that way.
No.
She's like, what are you doing here ruining my love session?
Just trying to make out with an enemy family. Gosh, Dad. Well, Uncle.
Dad? I mean, Uncle? What are you doing here?
And Tristane pulls a knife on Braun because he notices all the blood on Braun's clothing.
And the fact that he stole Dornish clothing, like...
Which is pretty smart on Tristane. Like, I get it. He's a young boy trying to protect his lover.
Yeah.
And then Jaime grabs Marcella, and then the Sand Snakes grab Jaime.
Wait, you forgot the part where Braun just totally punches Tristane, and he's like, you're knocked out, bye.
Oh, I was so indifferent to that moment, because I was like, yay, maybe a fight. And then the fight was terrible. Like, it straight up looked like it was from Xena. And I love Xena, but that is from the 90s, and I accept those fight scenes. This should have been better. Jaime Lannister is one of the best knights. The Sand Snakes are supposed to be amazing fighters. This should not look like 1990s Xena Warrior Princess.
Yeah, the choreography was off, which was weird because I'm not even into fight scenes. Like, we've discussed this. They're boring to me. But I was even like...
I was just expecting, like, Street Fighter sounds like... Wah, ooh, bah, ah, bah, whoosh. Like, that.
It looked very choreographed. That was the part I disliked is... for trained fighters, like, the Sand Snakes seem to be holding back. Like, there's the one with the whip and the one with the spears, I think. No, Spears fighting someone solo. The one with the whip and the one with the knives are fighting Braun, I guess? I don't even remember.
I don't know.
Because everyone's wearing the same outfits. It's very difficult.
I would have known had I not been so annoyed at the choreography.
But anyway, so it's like, it's 2-on-1, essentially. And they're, like, giving each other turns. Could have easily disarmed Braun. Like, they could have done stuff, but instead they were like, oh, first the one with the whip does it, and then the one with the knives does it, and then they counterattack, and it just seemed very, like, scripted, and I really didn't like that.
Yeah, it should have, if they were gonna, like, try and make it more of a fair fight, because honestly, the Sand Snakes could have taken them both out easily. They
and they didn't even, it was like they weren't even trying.
Yeah, like, there was every reason they could have taken them out, but I think they wanted to make the scene have a lot more, like, intense feelings, so they made it last longer, but on the same time, then you're like, I'm annoyed by this.
And it actually didn't even last that long, because they get interrupted pretty easily. And then, also, the garden is the worst place to do this, because Prince Doran can see all of it.
I know, and the garden in Dorne is very different than the garden in the King's Landing.
Yeah, it's not the same, y'all. And then, I also noticed that I guess we can safely assume that there's no other Sand Snakes. Like, I thought they might show up for this part, but I think it's only going to be the 3, which means that all the characters of the Sand Snakes, I think they were 7 or 9. I feel like it was an odd number. They've all been 7. Consolidated into these 3. So,
to make even them so boring, it's intense.
Yeah, that's what, and I don't even think they're consolidating them necessarily. I think they're just only having these 3. Like, I don't think they've taken anyone else's plot lines or background and put it into these characters. And it's just crazy that, like, I'm so oddly disappointed by that.
Yeah, they've apparently taken out, like, a lot of the coolest characters in the last book, or one of the last 2. I can't remember which one's the one in Dorne. I think it's the last one.
Yeah, so that was disappointing. And also, I read this on Vanity Fair. Thanks, Joanna Robinson of VanityFair.com. But Bronn might actually have gotten poisoned because in the books, the girl, and I can't tell the Sand Snakes apart, which is terrible. But the one that fights with knives, in the book, she fights with poison. So it's possible
so does Oberyn.
Yeah. It's totally like a Martell thing. And so it's possible that she poisoned her knives, and they do zoom in on that part where he gets cut by her. So it's possible that he is going to die from that, like, very slowly. Which, didn't you predict Bronn dying this season?
I wouldn't doubt it.
I'm pretty sure you said something about that. As soon as you saw him, like, when he came up in the very first, like, couple episodes, you were like, oh, good, he's going to die.
Why are you here again? Goodbye.
Yeah, essentially.
And so Arya shows up, and he's here to save the day.
And then Obara tries to get everyone on her side. She's like, I am Obara Sand, daughter of Oberyn Martell, and I fight for Dorne. And everyone's just like, shut up.
It's like, okay, 90s fantasy, we get it.
Yeah. And nobody is, like, impressed with it. Like, they're just like, just arrest these heathens.
I am Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Or whatever. It's just like that again. It's like, we got it.
I am Oberyn Martell. You killed my sister. You raped her. The same thing. I guess it's just a Martell thing.
And everyone's arrested, including Ilaria. That'll come up later. Blah, 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 blah. King's Landing.
Okay, you didn't seem excited about this part, so I'm going to talk about it.
Surprisingly, for how much I like Baelish, none of this. Not until Olenna. I was just kind of like, meh. So you're welcome to do whatever you want.
Okay, so Lord Baelish is back in town, and he has not been back since the Faith Militant has been armed. So he runs into Lancel, and Lancel tells him about the new King's Landing and how different things are. And essentially, Baelish is like, he's surprised that Lancel gave up the Lannister name, and he kind of disagrees with the new King's Landing. Like, he's like not threatened by it at all. He says, "We both peddle fantasies, Brother Lancel. Mine just happened to be entertaining." So he's like, we're both in the same business of fantasies. Yours is religion and mine is brothels. It's whatever. Like, he clearly does not see the Faith Militant as a threat, which I think is a huge foreshadowing thing. Because, you know what? He's usually pretty good about assessing enemies and knowing where to, like, pick his battles, but I think in this case he's totally wrong, because I think the lesson with the Faith Militant is going to be the people who think they're controlling it don't control it, including Cersei.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's definitely what's going to be it. And also, like, Baelish definitely doesn't know at all what's going on right now anywhere at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, his little spies, whatever. Like, okay, so in the next scene, he's talking to Cersei, and he is talking about how he knows where Sansa is, and he's like, oh, yes, my spies, my sources. And I'm like, no, that was literally just you. Like, I don't think he has spies anymore. Like, I think he's losing his touch. Okay. So he's saying that arming the Faith Militant and having them arrest Loras Tyrell was a terrible idea because House Tyrell is not going to be cool with it. Cersei says that she's actually the insulted one because she was supposed to marry him, and instead he was messing around with boys. And
Ew.
I know, like, it's just the worst thing. And then Baelish is like, yeah, one's choice of companion is a curious thing. And I was just like, I love how much they're hinting at the incest this time around. Like, they're not even hinting, actually. It's just like straight up like, yeah, and you sleep with your brother, so
Fuck off.
And then Cersei's like, well, your dead wife is pretty ugly. And essentially, Baelish promises that now that he has the veil, that they're going to remain loyal to the crown. And he wheels and deals. He says he knows where Sansa is. She's at Winterfell. They're planning to marry her to Ramsay Bolton. Cersei's pretty mad about that because that's basically being a traitor to the Lannisters. And
because her dad made Bolton the Ward of the North, so to marry Stark would make them traitors to Lannister because Stark's being Lannister's worst enemy.
Yeah, and just essentially like not being loyal to the crown, like marrying a traitor. And she's like, "What do we freaking do? I'm so mad." And what? That's how Cersei talks.
Totes.
And then Baelish is like, "Hey, well, I got some other intel. Stannis and Roose Bolton are going to fight, and after that, we should go in and." Like, whoever wins, they'll already be licking their wounds, so we just fight them then, and then we'll win. And he offers up his army from the Vale, and she's like, what do you get out of this? And he wants to be Warden of the North if he is able to do this. And Cersei basically accepts because she's like, I hate Sansa so much right now. I can't believe she's alive and trying to undermine me, and the Boltons are stupid, and I hate everything.
All right, so now Lady Olenna rides in. And shows her riding in, making comments, and then it shows her with Marjorie. And then it shows her with Marjorie.
I just want to say, I'm so glad to have the Queen of Thorns back to save the day. Because she is fantastic and so funny. Like, she straight up, Marjorie's like, Queen Cersei's being so mean. And she's like, get some rest, you look appalling, let me deal with Cersei. Like, so funny. She's just straight up like, Marjorie, you look terrible, go take a nap.
And then, so she goes to deal with Cersei. And Cersei is trying to act like she isn't the mastermind behind all this bullshit.
Not even, okay, so in other contexts, Cersei has been acting like, oh, the Faith Militant does what they want. Like, the king armed them. But in this one, she straight up is like, I'm just the Queen Mother. What am I supposed to do? And I'm like, shut up. You're not innocent.
And Lady Olenna's like, don't fuck with me. I'm not dumb.
She's not having any of this. She's like, basically like, okay, well, even though you have nothing to do with it, so you say, like, I'm sure you like our wheat and our soldiers, like, I could take our alliance away. And I thought this was fascinating because Cersei is, like, trying to manipulate her, which we've talked about she's not very good at anymore. And Olenna is just like, I'm going to be straight with you. Like, I will take away our alliance if you don't stop this. And I know it's you.
I know. I love Cersei's like, you with your veiled threats. She's like, what veil? I'm like, hell yeah, straight up threats. You go, Lady Olenna.
Yeah, and Lady Olenna says, we must work with our rivals rather than destroy them. And Cersei's like, oh, House Lannister has no rival. And I'm like, shut up. That was some real wisdom she just dropped there. Like, essentially, just be a little bit more reasonable, and sometimes you have to work with people you don't like. Like, that's just life. Sorry.
Like, your family, the Lannisters, has no power at all. They don't have money. They don't have a respectable lead, because the only one that has power is a Baratheon.
Yeah.
So what are you doing, Cersei? You're just trying too hard.
Digging her hole so deep. Like, I'm wondering if, you know how Game of Thrones always does episode 9 is like the big climax. I'm wondering if it's going to be Cersei's fall, because it's been building this whole season.
Yeah. I'm very curious how the last of these episodes are going, because they're building up a lot of stories that, by the way they're doing, have to finish in the next 4 episodes.
Yeah, I was confused and, like, kind of scared to see that we're already on episode 6. Like, I feel like so much is happening.
Yeah, because I imagine they're going to finish the Stannis storyline. Well, not finish it, but, like, finish the current thing that's been building. Yeah, they're going to finish what's building with Sansa, and they're going to have to finish what's building with Cersei, and at least partially with the militant. Well,
and then you haven't even talked about what's going on in Dorne and what's going on with Dany.
So anything in the south as well, like Essos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just forget about it sometimes because we're currently in Westeros and my brain genuinely has them, like, written in 2 different sections.
Yeah, no, I get you. I'm the same way. But, I mean, like, there's so many plots that the usual course would be to finish them up in this season.
Yeah, like, okay,
or at least this portion of it.
Sons of the Harpy, and then something to do in Dorne. God knows what they're doing there.
Yeah, well, and you know, what's his face? Jorah's either going to die or whatever, and Tyrion's going to get there somehow. And then what the hell happened to
I know, I like how they just left him behind. I've been thinking that this entire time. Didn't they just show him sadly roaming around like Valantis?
Has he not figured out, like they should have gone back and had him be like, Tyrion, where'd you go? Oh no.
And like just have him like with sad music in the background, walking down the streets with all like the markets, like slowly looking at fruit, picking it up, and be like, life has no meaning, and putting it back down.
Every piece of fruit reminds me I don't have genitals.
I always forget he doesn't have genitals.
Do you want to move on to Loras' trial?
Yes.
This was, well, it's not a trial. It's like a pre-trial to determine if there's enough, like, just cause to have a trial.
Yeah. Inquisition, something like that.
That sounds terrible, but I'm sure that's what it was.
I mean, that's what an inquisition is take someone and force them to answer questions.
I know, but it just has torturous connotations.
That is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm just thinking the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't do that. I hate myself. I'm trying to see. I have tweets that tell me what it's called, but I can't remember where they're at. Anyways, so talk about it because you are very, very invested into the Tyrells. Okay.
Yeah, so the Tyrells are pretty much my booze. I love all of them. Even Daddy Tyrell, who's probably not coming back. Oh, yeah, what's happening with that? Anyway. So
he's going to be assassinated by Arya? No, he's probably going to be killed by Trant.
Yeah, Mirren Trant, because they brought up his name again and, like, just basically to remind you, like, hey, this is the person that's going to kill Daddy Lannister.
This person exists!
For Tyrell. I said Lannister. I'm just so used to saying Daddy Lannister.
Yeah, Daddy
anyway,
Lannister.
Back to Loras' Inquisition/trial/whatever. So, basically, they point to his relationship with Renly Baratheon, which, as we know, was an actual gay relationship, and how he was really upset after Renly died, and he wore his armor when he was fighting and stuff, and he's just like, what? He was my king. Am I not allowed to, like, feel, like, that way about my king? And they were like, Joffrey's your king. He's like, that's not what we're talking about. And then he's like, I have not banged any dudes. I haven't. And then they bring...
No one can see your face, but it was super cute.
What did I do?
Just, you shook your head and went, I have not banged any dudes. It's such an honest way.
Yeah, and I thought he did a very convincing performance considering that we've seen him fuck many a dude, or bang. I'm saying bang to not curse as much. And then they bring up Marjorie. And Marjorie keeps being like, you can't make me do stuff because I'm the queen. And I kind of hate this because it almost feels like this was her final thing, was just be the queen, and that was my final ambition, and that's it. And it's like, girl, you still got way more games to play. Like, you thought that was the last game you were going to play, was getting the throne? Like, no, it's just the beginning. So whenever she's all prissy, like, I'm the queen, you can't make me do this, I'm like, are you kidding?
Well, like, for me, I kind of get it because I don't think she quite knows where she can and cannot take power from Cersei yet. So that's why she just tries to keep doing that, to be like, Tommen, you're the one with all of the power.
Yeah.
Please, God, say something. Because Tommen has to take some control for her to be able to take control, sadly, just because Cersei is insane. And I think Marjorie is well aware that she has to tread those waters carefully.
Yeah, I just really don't like that. I think it feels out of character. Because, yeah, she's always wanted to be the queen, but she's never been, like,
without a second plan.
Yeah, like, she's always been, like, cunning and clever, and this is not cunning and clever to just be like, I'm the queen, you can't make me do this. Like, you know that that's the rules.
One of the things is the second she was pulled up in the Inquisition, I did check, and it is Inquisition, it was because, like, when I was talking about this with my boyfriend, he was like, I was really sad when they did the Inquisition for Mia, because I knew how much she loved Marjorie.
It was very upsetting, though.
But first off, Cersei totally is behind this. Like, that's just a fact.
Yeah.
And she knew all those side rules to the Holy Army, which is like, you know, that the queen and king could not be beyond it, which is probably what's going to bring her down, is her creating this, the side rules that she is also not exempt from, because they're lancing the boil. And I really think that she's supposed to be the boil that they're lancing. That they mentioned.
That's just a gross term.
It really is. I just don't imagine it at all when I say it.
Oh, well, that's probably better than what I'm doing.
But yeah, like, she knew that she could get because the second Marjorie went up there, I'm like, if you lie, they're going to get you online under oath.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And she was like, yeah, and they even said, like, oh, and he doesn't bang dudes to the best of your knowledge. And she's like, yeah, to the best of my knowledge, which she would have had plausible deniability if we hadn't seen that scene earlier where she was there in the same room whenever he was banging that other dude, who, by the way, walks in next.
By the way, she didn't technically see any penetration, so they could have just been hanging out naked.
Yeah, and she would have
been like,
girls hang
out naked together all the time.
Weird. No, but she still would have gotten... Yeah, whatever. Because she would have mentioned that, you know, either way. But she was just like, yeah, these allegations are totally unfounded. And then the blonde boy walks in and everyone's like, fuck.
Yeah. And here Cersei's like, this is such a... Where did she go? What was the word she said?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't write it down.
It says such like a disgrace to the Tyrells for you to do this. But my boyfriend was saying that in the books, it's not even someone Loras has slept with. It's someone that Cersei had been like, you are doing this.
Oh, she planted him?
Yeah, but in this show, they did a person so that we wouldn't be confused.
Yeah, and I appreciated that. And also, I really liked the scene earlier in the season where he was in it, and it was very cute, and Marjorie was plotting. It was all really good. I thought things were going to go a lot differently, so maybe that's why I liked it. I
also liked Flying Loras.
Yeah, Loras was super mad about this. He was... Like, so the guy was like, oh, I've totally, like, slept with Loras. Like, we've done all kinds of things. Like, I'm his squire. And the first thing he did was be like, hey, come to my quarters. And, like... Let's touch butts. And then they're like, do you have any proof? And he's like, he has a birthmark. And I was like, that's why they brought up the birthmark. But then I was also like, you could have known that just squiring. Because don't you dress people for battle whenever you squire for them? Mm-hmm. So I still thought there was a little plausible deniability there, but they arrested.
Broke that.
Well, Loras was just mad. I mean, you could have even been like, oh, he's mad that he's saying stuff about him being gay. I don't know. But they thought that was enough to bring him to a real trial, so they arrested Loras, and then they also arrested Marjorie, and Marjorie was very shocked and appalled at that. And she kept going, I'm the queen. How dare you? Get your hands off of me. And it was just like, Marjorie, come on. You're better than this.
Most of my comments is Cersei is dumb, but I love you, but you're dumb. And Tommen is a weak-ass king. And this is
if Tommen would just step up, things would be a lot better.
And this is the episode in which you learn to miss Joffrey for multiple reasons.
Whenever I was watching this and live texting Liz, one of the things I said was like, you know, Joffrey is terrible in many, many ways, but he would not have let this happen to Marjorie.
I also was one of the people who didn't hate Joffrey as much as other people just because I thought he was a really good character. No, I didn't think he was, like, ethically good. I just found him a very interesting evil character. On, like, the other hand, where Ramsay's, like, pure psychopath, I don't find that interesting when the way I find Joffrey being, like, psychopath but thinking he's manipulating and just being a piss baby. I don't know. I prefer Joffrey.
I get what you're saying. But
like, it's the way I like the Lannisters. I used to, before Daddy Lannister died, enjoy their exploits. I appreciated their stories. But now
I really hated them in the first couple of seasons. Like, it would just, like, I couldn't deal with people being evil in general, and for them to be so evil, it just pissed me off. But I've gotten better because their stories have gotten more complex. Yeah. But to me, Joffrey never evolved, really. Like, he was interesting, I'll agree with that, but he was never, like, he didn't have, like, levels to him. And I appreciate characters that, like, are the way they are for a certain reason. Like, I loved it when we did, in the first episode, Cersei's going to the witch and getting told her fortune thing, because that influenced her. Like, I would want to see more of that from Joff, and we didn't see that.
Yeah, I get that. I think that I, more than a lot of people, can separate, like, bad or good and just judge characters, which gets me in trouble a lot.
Yeah, probably. I'm very emotional about, like, evil or, like, bad characters. I have a hard time tolerating them a lot of the time because it just, like, makes me so upset. I'm just like, why would you do that? I don't understand. Like, if they don't have a motivation or something, I think it's harder for me to enjoy that character.
Yeah, I can get that. But, I mean, it has to be well written for me to enjoy that.
Yeah, but that's part of it. I think it all kind of plays together, but we have separate motivations at the end of it.
Yeah. So now we are in Winterfell.
And in a moment of cruelty, Ramsay, Ramsay's like, hey, Miranda, go give my new wife a bath.
Well, in a moment of cruelty of giving Sansa the most amazing line she gets ever. I fucking loved this.
Yeah, it was really good. Do you want to read it dramatically?
Well, first off, they're washing her hair back to her Tully roots, which is, I think, very, very, very important in regards to the symbolism of this entire Winterfell scene.
Oh, I'm confused about this. So, did she just not wash her hair for the last couple months, or, like...
I would imagine so. I don't think it's that uncommon, because after a while, the bacteria of dirt starts eating itself, so you don't stink if you don't bathe often.
That's terrifying, but okay.
Anyways... So Miranda's talking about how Ramsay gets bored of girls and what's happened to all the past girls and how he let her come on a hunt with him once. I just said hunt like a real Southerner.
Yeah, you were like, hunt.
You know my roots now. I'm from Hunt County, Texas. Not even a joke.
I wish that face of yours could have been on the podcast because it was like so funny. It looked like you were joking and then you suddenly just had the most grim expression. Amazing.
Yeah, I just realized how terrible that sounded out loud when I said it.
Yeah, man. Okay. Continue with the cool part.
And Sansa turns around and is like, how long have you loved him, Miranda? Did you imagine that he'd be with you forever, and then I came along and ruined it? I'm Sansa Stark of Winterfell. This is my home, and you can't scare me.
Ugh, so good.
I know.
Also, I just realized that you wrote image instead of imagine.
Yeah. Whoops.
Transcribing, not our skill set.
No, because I talk so fast and I type so slow.
But that was such a good line. Like, she was basically like, look, I know you're here to try to emotionally manipulate me, but you don't know the shit that I've seen. Like you're nothing.
I like how she's like, I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
And then Theon comes up and begs Sansa to let him take her hand, and Sansa's like, fuck no, you killed my family. And Theon's like, he'll hurt me. And she says, you think I care what he does to you? Which is a very clear line to say what's going to happen later, which on one hand, I kind of appreciate that they did that it kind of solidifies more that it's supposed to be a bonding between Sansa and Theon rather than a moment for Theon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
that it's like that she knows that Theon has to deal with this too, I guess, more so.
Yeah, but she also doesn't care. And, like, I think she also sees it as a totally separate thing from whatever's happening to her. Like, I think Theon doesn't, but she does. And, yeah, we'll talk about the rest of it later. The wedding itself was really pretty.
Yeah, I really loved the red of the weirwood.
All the candles.
Yeah, it was so pretty, and... Ugh.
Sansa's wedding dress was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Like, if she was getting married to literally anyone else, it would have been, like, a dream sequence instead of a nightmare.
Hell, even if she's getting married to Theon, fuck.
Well, like, Theon or Reek, because Theon's better.
Yeah. Well, actually, Theon's worse than Reek.
Well, yeah, but, like, I'm imagining Theon after being Reek and coming back to Theon, so he's not as much of a dum-dum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just hate the name Reek, so I always say Theon.
Yeah, but to me, they're two different people, kind of like Sansa and Elaine Stone, or whatever. Yeah. All right, so now we get to the scene.
Controversial scene.
Yeah. You want to start?
Yeah. So we wrote down our feelings beforehand as to not ramble and to make sure our reasoning was clear. For reference, while Mia agrees with my point, the long opinion that you're about to hear was written entirely by me. So if you have someone to complain to, it's me. Mia has added her own comments at the end regarding her views on it separately from the Game of Thrones universe, but my opinion is fully formed based upon Game of Thrones solely. So let's start off with what happens in the book. In the book, Ramsay marries Jane Poole, a childhood friend of Sansa who the Boltons are pretending is Arya Stark. During this scene, Ramsay forces Theon upon Jane orally before raping her himself. Oh god, reading. The scene is a lot more graphic in the books, and potential spoilers, Jane deals with a lot of torture at the hands of Ramsay. She's essentially Reek 2.0. Jane does mostly serve as a character to further Theon and Ramsay's plots. But we have to recognize that these two women are not interchangeable, and what happens in the book is no longer a valid excuse, especially as the show has deviated so severely from the book this season. Many people have been arguing that rape is not a form of character development, and that is what makes this scene bad. I agree, rape is not a form of character development. There are people, and poor writers, who often use a woman's rape as the start of her empowerment, including Game of Thrones. Rape is not what is empowering, but it is easy to rationalize it as a catalyst of self-actualization as a consumer. Rape is a reality that a significant amount of the population faces. So on one hand, the representation is nice, but it's also choosing to potentially trigger a significant amount of your audience. For many victims, the rape is one of the many reasons a person has changed, potentially as a stronger or more vengeful person. I say this as a person who fits in that category. That being said, we don't need rape in our fantasy stories to make a woman strong or a man evil. Sansa and sexual assault is old hat. It has been a threat in different forms since the first season. In fact, there's not a main female character in Game of Thrones that has not faced the threat of sexual assault. Moreover, Sansa is by all means a child bride. But, all that being said, I'm not fully against this scene. In fact, I think I may appreciate it. It's important to note that men are sexually humiliated and tortured in Game of Thrones as well. While it is different than the sexual violence against all female characters, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. On the other hand, more women can relate to, and therefore react to, the violence against women. The male watchers would likely relate to the violence against men. No one spoke out against the sexual violence against men, which has happened in this same season, including the scene with the High Septon in the episode The High Sparrow, in which the High Septon was beaten outside, nude, and public. You also have the entire tragic storyline of Theon, in which he had his dick cut off. This is sexual and aggressive violence, and while it may not be relatable in the degree that rape is relatable for many women, it still happens. Game of Thrones has such a heavy emphasis in family trees, who gets the throne, and why their bloodline is important. Because of this, bastards hold a special place in Game of Thrones. And because they're such an important part of the story, it would be cruel to ignore the rape in which many of them were created. Could they just talk about rape in the same way that they mentioned that Ramsay was a baby of rape, or that Sansa Stark was telling the story of Rhaegar and Lyanna's rape? Possibly, but that's not how Game of Thrones goes. Game of Thrones is no stranger to controversy regarding sexual assault. Last season, Jaime and Cersei had a similar controversy in which the book-to-TV show rape translation was sketchy. This scene was also met with tremendous pushback. Many of the characters who have faced assault weren't as well thought of as Sansa, nor was the assault curated as carefully to evoke emotion as Sansa. There was a knee-jerk reaction to this scene, and I think that it is exactly what they wanted. I think that this is potentially the best rape scene in the show thus far. Alfie Allen, the actor for Theon, said that the scene, it's really going to make huge waves, and people aren't going to be happy about it. I think that this scene, more than any other rape scenes, was met with great care and considerations by the creators and actors alike. I truly, truly believe that they thought that they did this scene justice. I truly believed that they showed Theon instead of Sansa to protect both the viewer and Sansa's integrity. I truly believe that Theon was supposed to serve as the reflecting eyes of a viewer. In the book, Ramsay forces Theon to join, which keeping that in would ruin that perspective. If it were to follow the books, you would think that this scene would only be to serve a latter Theon. But I don't think that's the case. Brian Cogman, the producer of this episode, stated that the scene was a shared form of abuse that they both have to endure, Sansa and Theon. But it's not the extreme torture and humiliation that the scene in the book is. The true emotional and visceral reaction that even I faced is a testament to the amount of work and thought they put into creating this scene, as well as an amazing review for Alfie Allen's acting ability. Cutting the episode after this scene made it so we all had to feel it, we all had to think about it, and we all had to experience for longer. This, to me, feels like the most respect and the most thought they've put it into a rape scene. I think that they listened, that they tried, and perhaps they missed the mark. Alyssa Rosenberg at the Washington Post wrote an article entitled "Game of Thrones Has Always Been a Show About Rape," in which she states, "This scene felt of a piece with the way I always understood Game of Thrones and George R. R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire, as a story about the consequences of rape and denial of sexual autonomy, and that the omnipresence of sexual violence in the world that Martin created is the point, not illicitness taught in as something for the ladies." She reminds us of many other instances of sexual violence, lack of consent, or autonomy that is regularly expressed in both the novels and the show towards both men and women. Her point is an incredible point to be considered, and we will link the post in the description. Making rape an untouchable subject allows us to be silent about a very real societal problem. Yes, a fantasy that is too realistic can take us out of our own dream worlds and quickly into reality, but I'm starting to believe that is good. Game of Thrones has managed to create multiple conversations about rape, rape within marriage, and what counts as consent. These conversations get to happen without anyone in the real world being hurt. The internet does not unite about this way in real rape, or we don't talk about real rape. We discuss fantasy rape on the regular, and whether or not that's good or bad, that's just the truth. If I'm at Comic-Con, I can discuss the rape in Game of Thrones, but I can't discuss a rape of a college friend. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Game of Thrones has helped many people understand the boundaries of consent and the horror of rape better. I think this scene served as a reason for many people to jump off the wagon who have already hated this season thus far. And I'm willing to change my mind on this scene based off the rest of the season. But as for now, I get what they were trying for. Rape has to be portrayed with ample amounts of consideration for both the audience and the characters. I feel like the consideration and effort was there this time. They may have just missed the mark for many viewers.
Just to add a little more of a broader perspective, I think this scene makes sense in the Game of Thrones universe. It's in character, and it's almost expected of Ramsay. But I don't think that the reliance on rape as a plot or character device is a Game of Thrones only issue, and I don't think that we can view it in a vacuum. Rape and sexual assault are important issues that should be able to be discussed and analyzed in media. But I, like many others, am sick of the reliance on those plots. It is a lazy way to say, this woman has been insulted or hurt intimately and has something to fight for, or this man is evil and inhuman. It's an issue about media overall. I'm sick of expecting and having to react to sexualized violence in media. While Game of Thrones is known to tell stories in a sexually violent way, we can't use, oh, it's just Game of Thrones, as an excuse for the wider issue. Also, it's particularly annoying to watch this show as a feminist, because I feel like I have to defend the show's actions. I think this scene could have easily been done without yet another rape scene. Everything that this scene was trying to establish has already been established. But as far as rape scenes go, this scene better portrayed the horror of rape than many other scenes, especially compared to previous scenes in Game of Thrones. In particular, I'm thinking about Cersei's rape by Jaime in last season, which the showrunners and a lot of viewers didn't think that it counted as rape, and it was presented in kind of a sexy way.
So that's really our write-up on the rape scene. We didn't want to leave room for discussion because we didn't run ourselves into any kind of holes. So now we're going to go on to the episode rating because that seems real cool after that downer moment, right? Right?
And also, I just want to say, I thought that the episode as a whole was very strong. I'm still not sure how I feel about ending it on that scene. I think, like you said, it was very emotionally powerful, but my episode rating is based on all the other scenes.
Yeah. See, I get your episode rating, but I will tell you mine before you give yours because I think you'll agree with me.
Okay.
I don't want to rate this episode until next episode because this episode fully depends on what they do with Winterfell. This episode as a standalone, it can't stand alone to me. It is a 2-parter episode. Yeah.
Okay, I totally agree because I think it's hard to judge how that scene is without knowing what happens next. Like what were they utilizing that scene for? It's not totally clear yet.
Yeah, and because I truly think that scene was done with as much respect as they could do, and I do think Game of Thrones uses sexual assault as a narrative and as an important narrative that it could have been done right. Well, as right as it can be done.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Well,
so,
I
know what happens next episode.
5 dragons. Overall, though, I thought this episode was really strong. All the other scenes I thought were really good. It was very engaging, especially compared to, was it last episode that was really boring to me? I think it was.
Well, we don't even remember it, so probably.
I think it was Kill the Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of weak to me. So this one was a lot better. Still disappointed in the Sand Snakes, but everything else kind of makes up for it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing your rating next episode.
Yeah, I will come back next episode with a 2-parter rating.
Ooh, that means you have to subscribe, right?
Yeah, exactly, because there's continuity between our episodes now. All right, so we agree on all of these questions. So who is the MVP of this episode?
It is the Queen of Thorns herself, Lady Olenna Tyrell.
Woot woot. Yeah.
Her whatever, her burns are very good.
Yeah, she's the only thing worth a damn in this episode, like truly worth a damn.
Yeah, like everyone else, like, I don't know, there were other interesting characters and interesting plots and stuff, but she was the only, like, she was like the bright shining star in the middle of the sea of boring people.
I think everything else was action in this episode, and like I've said many times before, the thing I love is the politics. Yeah. Manipulative politics. So, like, Olenna is a very, very, very perfect character for what I like in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, absolutely. And having her back was just a real treat.
Yes, absolutely. And plus, most of the political characters are not doing political things right now.
Yeah. So. Marjorie's acting like a little bitch. Cersei's failing at being manipulative. Like, we needed her back in our lives.
I know. Now that we don't... Because I also loved Daddy Lannister, just in regards to entertainment.
So glad we're, like, just officially calling him that.
If I ever met him, I'd probably call him Daddy.
Hey, Daddy. Oh, God.
All right. And what was the best outfit of this episode?
Sansa's wedding dress was absolutely gorgeous. I loved that it was very Winterfellian. And the thing about her wedding is if it was to literally any other person, I think it would have been beautiful. And it really did feel like a Sansa kind of dress to me.
Yeah, it was good. It's golden.
Alternatively...
Somehow they made a winter coat. Very, very pretty.
Yeah, that's what's weird is it was very warm, but very, very pretty.
Elegant.
Shocking. Alternatively, I also enjoyed the slavers' outfits because they were shirtless underneath.
And they were very pretty textiles.
Sure.
I mean, it's both. It's the beautiful textiles on beautiful men.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, thanks for listening.
We have new episodes on Wednesdays following an episode of Game of Thrones.
Subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review if you like us.
You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/BAMFpod.
Send us questions, comments, and concerns to bamfpod@gmail.com.
You can follow the show on Twitter @BAMFpod.
Or you can follow your host on Twitter. I'm at XOMiaMoore.
And I'm at Liz Luxley.
Also, you can find more information at leilamiho.com/BAMF. Sorry, I'm not used to doing this.
We flipped orders and it's messed it all up. You can also find our donate button, because podcasting is expensive. Verlar Morgulis.
Belardo Hyras.
That
was terrible.
You look so put out.